Woo! What's going on, guys? Owens Forum coming at you guys here with a video. Today's video, we're going to be talking about a really big situation going on in the Detroit Lions land. Aidan Hutchinson. We got to get this on the table right now. Man, I see it's been all over the news, all over social media, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you guys follow, man. We lost Aidan Hutchinson. You guys know this. I'm not going to talk about too much about the injury, how bad it was, but it was a horrific injury. But my whole thing is right now, what are we going to do? What's Brad Holmes going to do after losing superstar defensive end Aidan Hutchinson? Is he going to get on the phone? We've heard that he's been doing that and acquire another pass rusher, some type of defender. And I know there's a lot of Lions fans out there that want to stay pat. There's a lot of Lions fans that want to just sell the farm. There's a lot of Lions fans that just want to do something. There's almost like three different types of fans that want to do something, and a couple that don't want to do too much at all, which I don't understand. Because it's not like we just lost Aidan Hutchinson. Like we lost Aidan Hutchinson. That's soul crushing. It's devastating. He was on his way to becoming Defensive Player of the Year super early though. But he was looking like a man possessed out there. Year three, that's when these guys usually turn it on, and he looked like he really just was starting to click. But it wasn't just him. Prior to that, we lost Marcus Davenport, another starting defensive end. We lost Derek Barnes, a starting linebacker that was getting quite a bit of playing time actually over Jack Campbell, our first round pick, and he was starting to develop into a pretty nice linebacker. Not a world beater or anything like that, but he was a guy that was starting to gel as a Detroit Lion and gel as a linebacker in the NFL, developing really nicely. And losing Melifonwu, a safety, losing 3-4 defenders. And I think this one really is the kick in the pants right here with the Hutchinson loss. It's humongous. So, we're going to talk about it. We also lost guys like John Kaminsky. Before the season starts, we lost Kyle Pecco. That same game against the Dallas Cowboys. He's done for this season too. He's a backup D lineman, a backup nose tackle, if you will. But, a guy that gets snaps. And our defense is taking a hit right now, a major, major hit. So, we've heard about Holmes being on the phone, trying to talk to other teams about certain players. We've heard for sure, that he's been on the phone with who was it? Yeah, he was on the phone with the Jets, talking to them about Hassan Reddick. He was talking to the Cleveland Browns. Those two guys, we've kind of heard a lot from the past couple hours recently. I guess by the time I hang up this phone, or like hang up this phone talking like Brad Holmes, I stop this video. Maybe a Detroit Lion is there's a new Detroit Lion in town with a Hassan Reddick or a Za'Darius Smith. So we heard that they've been, that Holmes has been trying. He's been dialing. Even Brad Holmes coming out, Dan Campbell coming out and saying stuff like, we're going to make sure that this guy's a fit. If we bring someone in, we bring someone in. If we don't, we don't. We're going to hit practice squads. We're going to get practice squads, and that's what they've been doing. We'll talk about that too in a minute. But let's talk about some guys that are now on this team, like the depth chart. Our defensive ends, our outside linebackers, our edges. Our starters, as of right now, is Levi Onwuzurike and Josh Pascal. That's pretty much who your starters are right now. That's scary, and it's not in a good way. Not scary in a good way whatsoever. I really like what Levi's been doing this year. Josh Pascal, he seems to be a guy that is a very, he's a backup dude. He's that second or third, the kind of D lineman that comes off the bench and gives someone a little bit of a rinse, gives someone a rest, and plays the run really well. That's what he is. And then you got Mekhi Wingo out there, a rookie from Louisiana, who's been kind of like a guy that is like same as Pascal. Obviously, not getting as many snaps as a Joshua Pascal, but a guy that has a couple tackles to his name. He hasn't really done too much. But he's an option too. Then you got James Houston, We all know what's going on with James. James Houston was a superstar back as a rookie coming out, man. 6th-round pick. Took forever for him to even get activated to the 53-man roster, and what he did, he never looked back. He had like 8 sacks in nine games, and he looked like a guy that was going to be a staple in this defense for the next 2, 3, 4 years, whatever. And he hasn't been anything. Like last year, they tried to make him an outside linebacker. They tried to, or a Sam linebacker, whatever they were trying to do. Put him in coverage a little bit, have him play the run a little more. They put more on his plate. They put more on his plate. They told him that he wasn't just going to be a guy that was just going to pin his ears back and go get the quarterback. They wanted to put more on his plate. They wanted to make him more complete linebacker. Didn't work. He got hurt. He ended up getting hurt, covering somebody, or he got hurt on special teams, something like along those lines. Something that he probably shouldn't have been doing. We all know what James Houston is, and then year 3, they finally took that away from him. Said, "All right, this experiment's not working," and he just hasn't been the same. He just hasn't been the same. There's been reports that his explosion is off ever since he broke that leg. I think he broke a leg or an ankle. I forget what he did in year 2, but he broke something, and he hasn't been as explosive. So that kind of hurts there, and he just hasn't done nothing. I think he played very limited snaps last week versus Dallas, if at all, if he even played at all. I know against Seattle, he had a couple penalties against him, a couple offside penalties, encroachment. He's trying to jump the gun, he's trying to make that play, and he just hasn't been the same. He just hasn't been the same, and I honestly, with that guy, I think the only reason why he's still on this team is because of all the injuries that we have to our defensive line. Really, I think he would have been gone a long time ago if we would have been somewhat healthy, and we're not. And then we picked up a guy named Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas from the Bengals practice squad. That's what we did. And I know, Holmes just came out and said, just because I went and did that doesn't mean I'm done. Everybody calm down. We're just trying to fill up some spots. This is a guy that I believe was drafted a couple of years ago, 2022, by the Cleveland Browns. I want to say 6th or 7th round. He played a little bit as a Brown, but he's pretty much been a practice squad guy for the last couple of years. So those type of guys right there, those are kind of the guys that are going to be starting as of right now. Isaiah Thomas, I kind of threw in there because it seems like he might be part of a rotation. I don't really know, but Levi Onwuzurike and Josh Pascal should not scare anybody. They should not scare anybody. This is a Super Bowl contending team. I just don't know and understand. I think something's going to come of this. I think we're going to pick up a player or two, but it needs to happen sooner than later. There's a lot of people out there saying, no, you can't show your hand. We're going to act desperate. Teams know what we have and don't have. Teams know. They're not stupid. They deal in this kind of stuff every day. This is everyday occurrence. Everybody knows Aidan Hutchinson went down. Everybody knows Marcus Davenport went down. Barnes, all kinds of players that went down first. They know what we have as our starters as of right now. So they could be asking for a little bit more, and I don't blame teams. But something's got to be done. Then we recently picked up some guys in the practice squad, free agent moves, Al-Quadin Muhammad and Cam Gill. Those 2 guys were free agent guys. Just like Muhammad is a little bit interesting. 6'3", 250 pounds. 6 years in the NFL. He's played for the Saints for 1 year, Colts for 4, Bears. I think he might have some familiarity with the Saints, with Aaron Glenn. I think Aaron Glenn, maybe Dan Campbell, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But he's got 157 tackles, 23 tackles for loss, pass deflection, 4 forced fumbles, fumble recovery, 33 quarterback hits, and 12 sacks. Been involved in 84 games, started 34 of them. So he's probably the most veteran guy that we have right now. 29 years old, like I said. So he's got a little bit of giddy up to the quarterback with them. He's not the biggest at 6'3", 250, probably more of a pass rusher, if anything. And then Cam Gill, 6'3", 240, 26, Buccaneers. 3 years in the NFL, 4 years really. I don't think he recorded a single stat though in 2020. I want to say 2022. I don't know if it was like 221. It might have been a COVID something. Maybe it was COVID, but 12 tackles, tackle for loss, forced fumble, 2.5 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. I don't see him making any type of impact either. So, it's just really, it's scary, guys. Like even the Isaiah Thomas, 1 year, 2022. He's 25 years old, 6'5", 266 pounds, 9 tackles, tackles for loss, 2 pass deflections, fumble recovery, a sack, and 2 quarterback hits. 0 games started, and he's been involved in 10 games. Just nothing to bark like to write home about. Like you're not really getting too excited about these. James Houston, 13 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, fumble recovery, forced fumble, 12 quarterback hits, 8 sacks. 3 games started, been involved in 11 games in 3 years. 25 years old, 6'1", 245 pounds. And then I talked about Levi Nuzurike, 52 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, forced fumble, 2 pass deflections, 8 QB hits, 3.5 sacks. He's got like 1.5 of them this year. 3 games started, been involved in 31 games, 26 years old, missed a lot of time as well, back injuries. And then Josh Pascal, 3 years, 46 tackles, 8 for loss, fumble recovery, 1 pass deflection, 3 sacks, 8 quarterback hits, 6'3", 274 pounds at 24 years old. 9 games started in 27 games, kind of under his belt. So, and then Mekhi Wingo, 6 foot, 291, 21 years old, 3 tackles, 0 tackles for loss, 1 quarterback hit. He's kind of just been a guy that's kind of filled in and hasn't really done much. So, we don't have the firepower. Like I'm rattling off all these stats that I probably should have rattled off a little earlier. I was a little bit all over the place, but it's just it's frightening. Like you see these other teams, and I love and listen, I'm going to get this right out of the way. I should have said this immediately. I love Brad Holmes. He's a great GM. I've talked about this numerous times. He's a great GM. He's turned this city around. He's turned this franchise around. He's made everybody love football again in Detroit. But sometimes he just kind of like doesn't like. I don't want to say he's not tuned in. He's not tuned in with this team because this guy lives and breathes football, especially Lions football. But it almost just seems like he just kind of like got the blinders on sometimes when it comes to this football team and their needs. Did it last year, man. We've been talking about this pass rush for how long? This is before even Hutch even came. Before even Hutchinson even walked into the building, we're like, who's going to be the guys? You got Romeo Okwara. You brought in Julian Okwara. Guys like Charles Harris. John Kaminsky. Like we're bringing all these guys in that are try-hard guys, but that haven't really done a lot. Romeo did a little bit back in the day. Julian did nothing for us really. Kaminsky had that one decent year. But these guys we have now, man, nothing moves the needle. Nothing. Are they going to play a linebacker, Adrian Beauplay? Is he going to play? Are they going to call him up from the practice squad? Come on. What are we going to do here? Then you're hearing about guys coming in, like I said. The 2 guys I keep hearing is Hassan Reddick and Zadarius Smith. I have a feeling it's going to be Zadarius Smith from the Browns. This guy's played for the Ravens, Packers, had some really good years as a Green Bay Packer. I think he played for Minnesota Vikings as well, and then the Browns right now, like I said. And then 2 Pro Bowl years, I believe, with the Packers and 1 with the Vikings. So his best years were with the North. His best years were in the NFC North, not the A. So, and then Reddick, Cardinals, Panthers, Eagles. Now he's a Jet, but he hasn't even suited up or practiced once with the New York Jets. And everybody keeps saying how Hassan Reddick is some type of cancer. He's a bad teammate. He's not good here. He doesn't get along with anybody. I've never heard that before. I think that's a lot of Lions fans that just don't want him to come into the building for some reason. I know he's a little bit of a one-trick pony, Hassan Reddick, but that one trick he does is exceptional, and that's getting to the quarterback, sacking the quarterback, creating pressure, flushing the quarterback out of the pocket. But I've never heard bad things about Reddick being like a bad guy or a bad teammate. I was arguing with some guy about it today, man. Somebody was telling me that there's no way the Jets will deliver or trade anybody to the to the Lions or any NFC team because apparently the Jets have to give up second round pick if he gets traded to they have to give up a second round pick to the Eagles if he's dealt to an NFC team. So I'm like, well, it's probably ideal that they don't want to do that. They probably would rather an AFC team step up and they can, they can get the picks and not have to give up a high round pick. Like a second round pick is high. But business is business. They're trying to get this guy out of the building. If there's no other AFC teams kind of stepping up to the plate, why wouldn't they deal him? You might lose a draft pick, but you might get 2 in return. You might get a 4th and a 5th. You might get a 4th and a 6th, a 3rd and a 4th, something along those lines, a 3rd and a 5th. There's probably going to be some type of deal like that with Hassan Reddick, especially if it's an NFC team, because they're going to lose one. They're probably going to want a couple back. So they get at least one of those. You know what I mean? So losing the second round pick and then having a little bit later pick, but that's a business. Sometimes you have to know when to take your losses. And then Zadarius Smith, 32-year-old guy, Pro Bowlers, Pro Bowl under his belt for a couple teams. He's not the same guy he once was. He's probably one of the bigger guys out there that like bigger names out there. He's still got a little bit of juice left in the tank. I have a feeling that he is going to be a Lion, Zadarius Smith. To be honest with you, I'm kind of on the fence with either Reddick or Smith. I think Smith might be the overall better defensive end. I think Reddick's more of your pass rush kind of guy. He's going to come off on certain downs, especially on run downs. Doesn't play the run as well as Smith does, in my opinion. I think Smith would be probably the better get and probably the easier get. He probably would be. And then you're hearing about guys like Max Crosby, which I think is delusional. I think guys like Trey Hendrickson is a little delusional right now too for the Bengals. Myles Garrett might be a little bit delusional for the Browns. And then I think guys that are possibilities are guys like Azeez Ojulari from the Giants, maybe a Cameron Jordan from the Saints, but has always said that he wants to retire New Orleans Saint. Defensive end Harold Landry from the Titans. I loved him coming out when he was with Boston College and the Titans grabbed him. Then defensive end Jadeveon Clowney, who's playing with the Panthers right now. I think he might have got hurt last week though. And then Josh Uche, a former Michigan Wolverine guy with the New England Patriots. And there's other guys that that I haven't really written down. I can go through all 32 teams, and I could probably pick 1 or 2 guys that could be on the trade block, especially with the teams that are not really going to make the playoffs, and you just know are not going to have impact years. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to make much noise. So their contracts are coming up for a possible expiration. So those type of guys are going to be a lot easier to get. That's why I think Max Crosby completely off the table. The cap hit for the Raiders is huge. I don't think we're going to give up the capital. I would love to do it. Don't get me wrong. I'm on board with anybody right now. I don't want to just grab a body to grab a body though. I don't want to just get a guy that's going to get me that's going to get us 2 sacks. Like the rest of the season. I'd like to get a guy that's going to get us 5 to 10 sacks for real. That's what I would like. Is it going to happen? I don't know. I don't want just a body, but there's a couple guys out there that can be got, man. And I think Brad Holmes needs to do it. Like I said, we've talked about this for years. When's it going to stop? Just think about it, guys. Just put it this way. We've been talking about this pass rush. Let's just say when Hutch came in, okay? 2022, 3 years ago. He came in 3 years ago, and we've been talking about this pass rush for 3 years. You're like, okay, who's going to help the kid? I think the first year, I think it was Charles Harris. I could be wrong, or it was Romeo. It was someone. I kind of forget. It just wasn't really good enough. I think it might have been Charles Harris and Romeo. I kind of forget, but whatever. We're talking about who's going to be his running mate. We haven't found one. Last year, it was even worse. Kaminsky came in, didn't have a good year. He played better the year prior. I think he might even got a little bit banged up as well, too. Just couldn't find a running mate. And we're just like, what's he going to do? What's Brad Holmes going to do? Is he going to make a splash at the trade deadline? Trade deadline's coming up November 5th. It's coming up November 5th. That's 2-3 weeks away. What's he going to do? We've been looking for a running mate for Hutch. Put it this way. We're looking for a running mate for Hutch because we didn't trust Marcus Davenport. Marcus Davenport goes down. So we're like, my God, we got to get somebody for Marcus Davenport. Like, who's going to step in? Joshua Pascal, Levi, which Levi is playing well. I'm not going to take anything away from Levi. He's playing well, but is he a starter at this point? Should be, because he was a second-round pick. So he should be able to do something. But do you trust him? Does this fan base, does the regime trust him? Does the regime trust a guy like Josh Pascal? But Davenport goes down, okay? And you're like, oh my God, man, we need to find another pass rusher. And then Hutch goes down, and it's like, it's time to panic. It really is. There's going to be people in the chat. There's been people on all these fantasy groups, Lions groups and all that stuff that, are, we're fine. We're going to be fine. How are we going to be fine? Hutchinson, if you go, there's a stat on Aidan Hutchinson. It's a PFF stat. It's like 4 or 5, 6 different stats. He's number one in all of them for defensive linemen, like hits, pressures, pass rush win rate, individual stuff. Just like number one across the board in like 6 different stats. Just, you know what I mean? And he had 7.5 He had 7.5 sacks. He had like 50 pressures. Our whole defense as a whole had like 7 sacks, 7.5 sacks as a whole. Hutchinson had all of it. He had all the pressures, all the hits, all the hurries, everything. The win rates, the individual stuff, the explosion rate, the just anything you can think about a defensive lineman getting to the quarterback, he had it. He was number one across the board. And I'm not just talking about for the Lions. I'm talking about for the whole NFL. And now that's gone. That's completely gone. Holmes has to do something. So people are going to tell me, Mark, calm down. It's 2-3 weeks. I get it. But it's hard to calm down, because especially when you know that this team is for real. And this team is for real. This team's for real. We saw it last year. This team was for real last year. What did we do? We went out and Holmes went out and made a trade for a Donovan Peoples-Jones, a wide receiver. That's crazy to me. That was crazy to me. It never made any sense. When you know your defense was absolute dog water, you went out and you got a wide receiver. When you didn't need one. You just didn't need one. You had 3-4 catches in the whole year? Made a couple in the playoffs. Yeah, he did have a nice one against the Rams. But come on. You know what I mean? Like I said, Holmes is a great GM, but he's not void of criticism. It just bothers me. He's just so chill. He's zen. I guess I'm just not that guy. I'm not that guy. He has a plan. He's structured. He won't veer off from that plan, it seems like. But sometimes shit doesn't go your way, man. Sometimes things doesn't go your way and someone throws a wrench right in your plans. A big steel, rusty wrench right in your plans. And this is what happened. It's been slowly happening this year with losing guys. And then when you lose your superstar player, that's what Hutchinson is. He is a legitimate superstar. He has turned himself into one in 3 years. He was one, I think, as a rookie. But he was just slowly getting better and better. He had his flaws a little bit as a rookie. He still does. He's not the perfect guy, but he was turning himself into a superstar. And that's what he is. And we lost him. He's done. And we need to do something. And we need to bring in 1-2 players at least you're never going to replace that production. You're never going to replace that type of leadership, that type of grit, that type of fury, that type of that ticking time bomb that he is, that controlled fury. That's what he is. He's the type of guy that, you look to make a play, and he's that guy. That's not coming in. Teams aren't going to give you guys. That's why I think Max Crosby is completely off the board, because I don't think the Raiders are going to give up on him anyways, even though how bad they are. They already said they wouldn't give up multiple. They wouldn't even take multiple firsts for him. And people saying that he wants to come here, it's not true. He's, I think he's from Lansing, though. I think he's from East Lansing. I'm pretty sure he is. He said something along the lines a couple years ago or last year. He goes, if there's one team that I would play for, if it wasn't Vegas, it was Detroit. He goes, that's one place I'd love to play in, but I am a Raider. I bleed black and silver. That's what he bleeds. I think he even came out with some type of saying, I bleed black and silver, not blue and silver. Yeah, I think he even came out with something like that. Not a diss on Detroit. It's just that he's not coming here. He's not. He's not. People are like, oh man, he said he wants to come home. He never said that. He just said that he would love to play here if he wasn't a Raider. And that doesn't mean that he wants to leave Vegas. Doesn't mean anything like that. It doesn't. I would love him to come here. Don't get me wrong. But I just want to know what are we going to do? Because there's nobody on this roster that I think is going to fill that. And they're going to find out, I think, this Sunday too. We'll talk about that when we do the preview. But that's going to be, where's that pass rush coming from? Glenn has some really, really hard thinking to do this week. So that's all I'm saying, guys. I think they need to make a move, bring in somebody. You know, if you want to exhaust some of the farm, do it. I don't really care. I don't think it's going to happen though. Whatever. But bring in somebody, Brad Holmes, one or two guys. Has to happen. It really does. So that's it, guys. You know, I'm just a little bit concerned about it. I think everybody should be. You know, if I get one more person telling me it's fine, I'm going to lose it. You ever see that meme out there? I think it's a meme. It's a picture of a dog sitting in like a cafe, and he has his weird funky hat on, and he's just sitting there with his face, and he's surrounded by fire. And he's like, it's fine. We're fine. He's just sitting there. It's like a meme or whatever, a GIF, whatever they call those, a GIF, whatever they call it. It's actually, that's how I feel. Oh, we're fine. Because we're not. We're really not. I think our defense has improved. Don't get me wrong. This defense has improved. I think we still got a great run defense. This pass defense, though, is taking a major hit with the sack department and the hurries and the hits and the pressures, all that stuff. And it's going to show if we don't do something. It's going to show. Because you can only blitz so much. Because we don't have guys that can get to the quarterback at a regular, consistent level. It's got to be done through disguises. It's got to be done with blitzes and all that stuff. It's different. And I don't think we're built like that. We're not. Hutch completely can make you into a whole different defense. He can. He can make you run some things that you normally wouldn't run all the time, but he's so good at getting to the quarterback that he lets you play a little bit looser. It's not going to be like that no more unless they get somebody. And I don't know who they're going to get. I really don't. But someone's coming in, hopefully. But thanks a lot, guys. This is almost like a 30-minute video. We're going on 28 minutes. I appreciate you guys. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button at the bottom right. Don't forget to hit the notification bell up top. Bing, bing, bang. Don't forget to like, comment, share this out. Really appreciate it. Got grit. Detroit versus everybody. Detroit Lions, baby. Let's go. Boom. Let's go, Holmes.